Okay, welcome back to another day of our Pet Mental Health Awareness Week. So today we have a really special guest, veterinarian Dr. Ava Frick. And not only are you a veterinarian, but I read that you were inducted into the Animal Chiropractic Hall of Fame in 2015, which is a really cool accomplishment. I thought that was awesome in your bio. Besides
Thank you.
animal chiropractic, you also practice herbal therapy, whole food nutrition, microcurrent therapy. You have the lifeextendmethod.com website, which is where people can get your books. You're an author, and you have countless articles on a wide range of topics. But today we're going to talk about hair tissue mineral analysis, which you have written lots and lots about. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for this invitation. I really appreciate everything that you and Dr. Judy do out there in the industry for helping pet parents and veterinarians really come to the realization of the full amplitude of what this holistic healthcare is all about. So I'm with gratitude here today, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and when I was looking at your website before this, because I knew that you had a wide range of services and things that you practiced in, but I thought it was also really interesting that you use the word vibrant in your description a lot, because that's part of our tagline is to give pets the vibrant life they deserve. And it's very different. You mentioned it's not just about the quantity of years, but the quality that we can encourage in those years. And so today, when we're talking about the HTMA type of stuff that you specialize in, I also really love how you do look at things from a holistic perspective that really aligns with giving pets not only a longer life, but a healthier life. So I think today is a really relevant topic when we're looking at behavior and mental health and also how we can best support our pets.
Yeah, so it's really a functional medicine approach to healthcare, which anybody who's out there for themselves needs to find that functional medicine doctor as well. So that's what we're doing. And also just to make sure people understand that HTMA stands for hair tissue mineral analysis. So we can use the word hair or fur with animals, either or, depending on which they are. But yeah, it's the very same. It's taking a hair sample, and that hair really is a tissue sample, just like a liver tissue or a skin biopsy or whatever.
Right.
And it's analyzing the minerals that are in that hair sample, along with the toxic metals.
So when we're looking at the HTMA, mostly it's measuring the minerals and then heavy metals that have been present over a span of time.
Correct. So that sample is the past 90 days. But if you look at those 90 days is a culmination of the 90 before that and the 90 before that and 90 before that. It even
Right.
goes back into when the mother is pregnant with the babies. They become, when they're born, we like to think that little babies come out and they're all just like perfect and everything is just right. But
Right.
that's not so, because whatever the mother is or whatever the mother has or doesn't have, that's what the babies are born with or without. So I've seen young dogs. I do these samples. Well, so mostly horses, dogs, and cats. Those are the most categories, but I've done rabbits and other species of animals as well. So I've done ones that were just, like they come in for their first veterinary visit. So they're 8 weeks or 10 or 12, whatever. And we'll go ahead
Right.
and do a hair sampling then, because the earlier you get those discrepancies corrected, then the less illness they're going to have, the less likely to catch something, the healthier they're going to be, the better their GI, everything, and the less bills then you're going to be spending on other medical issues. So you can
Yeah.
here start with creating that quality of life because you've found out the real whys. And that's what this is about. It's going back to the beginning. By the time you get a disease that shows up or this behavioral problem that's escalated, the real why developed long before then. And now they've just adapted and tried to acclimate, but they're still influenced by what's missing or what's going on internally. So that's what we're looking at. And the important thing for people to understand is what we're looking at here is the interstitial fluid in the body. It's not the blood. You can't compare this to blood at all. Blood tests are very different. The interstitial fluid is actually like your refrigerator and your pantry. The interstitial fluid carries everything, nutrients and hormones and everything, to all the cells in the body for all the metabolic processes that are going to happen. So whatever's in the interstitial fluid, whether it's toxins or whether it is heavy metals or vitamins or minerals or lack of anything that you need, that is what we're looking at, because that is what also feeds the hair follicle. So as that
Right.
hair is forming, it's being nurtured by whatever is in the interstitial fluid. Then as that cuticle forms on the outside of the hair, it traps all of that vital information. So this is how we can determine what is that individual living off of. And that's where we get the information for understanding the behavioral characteristics that have developed.
Gotcha. So I have a few questions stemming from that. Number one, for people that aren't familiar with the HTMA testing, do you have to shave the hair? Do you have to pluck the hair? Do you need the cuticle that you mentioned? What pieces are required? Should you wash it? Should you not wash it? What are some guides along those lines?
Okay, so start with the washing. If your animal is out in the rivers, ponds, oceans, things like that, it's a really good idea to give them a bath. We need at least 4 hours from the bath time for the fur to kind of reacclimate. So anywhere between 4 to 24 hours after a bath is really, really good. It doesn't matter where you take the sample. I usually recommend the neck or the chest or the belly, just because then you don't have a bald spot.
Okay.
I do prefer that it is shaved, because we want to get close to the skin. We don't
Okay.
want the follicle down below. We don't have to, plucking is not necessary, and that'd be pretty painful, because we need a good teaspoon size amount of fur. So sometimes with the hairless animals, obviously this is not going to be a possible thing to do. But I mean,
Right.
I've clipped from under the ears, under the tail. We just record where you collect the samples, and I do like to shave, but some people cut with scissors, and that's okay. You just got to be careful that you don't pull up the skin, pull up the fur, the skin comes, and then you clip too close. So
Right.
you can use scissors. It won't be quite as recent, but it's, it's doable. So you can do that too. If bathing is not convenient, you actually can wipe the area with some alcohol and then
Okay.
allow that area to dry. You can use a blow dryer if you're really in a hurry, but just get it dry and then take the sample. The sample should not be longer than 1 to 1.5 inches. So if you've got like a Great Pyrenees, and I get long fur collies, long fur, you have to cut that down. You take the old away, and then you've just got the fresh part. There's a story of my horse. This is years ago. I was saying I was going to get his TMA done, going to do it. I just hadn't got around to it. And I had a gentleman that was working on the farm, and he comes in one day to the clinic, which was on the farm at that point in time. And he has 6 inches he's carrying in of the bottom of my horse's tail.
Oh, geez.
Now,
That's not super helpful.
that not only was that a long time ago, now he had a gouge out of the bottom of his beautiful tail.
Yeah, okay. So that's good to know. It's about 1 to 1.5 inches of the most recent. So close to
Yes.
the skin, up 1.5 inches,
Yeah.
inch and a
And
half.
obviously some
Okay.
dogs, they only got short hair, and that's totally fine too. That is what is submitted, and that it all works.
Gotcha. So that's the sample that you submit. And then you had touched on it briefly, but what are the types of results that people could expect when they submit a hair sample? To what would they learn from it?
Oh boy. Okay. So the results are based on minerals. So we're looking at calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, iron, copper, manganese, zinc, chromium, phosphorus, selenium. Those are our main minerals that we're looking at in general. And then also we get toxic metals. So arsenic, aluminum, mercury, lead. There's a collection of those that we get as well. When we're looking at behavior specifically, the minerals that are going to be indicative of why is this individual having anxiety and stress related things is going to be calcium and magnesium, specifically those two for sure. Those are nature's most wonderful calming minerals. So calcium calms the muscles and magnesium calms the nerves. So if those minerals are low in this interstitial fluid, you don't have enough of that in your refrigerator, like you're almost out of milk and the kids are screaming that they want some cereal or whatever, eggs are gone or whatever it is, the fruit's out. If you don't have that, then that individual cannot get calm. They tend to be ramped up a lot. And if they do get overly excited, then they fall into this vacuum space of nothingness because that teeny little bit that they had can't support them. So they go and go and go until they just collapse, like they just get so exhausted. And that's not a good way to be living. So we get
Right.
those. And the body looks at not only those two minerals individually, but it looks at ratios of certain minerals. Like they want to be twins, like calcium and magnesium want to be even and go together. So sometimes in some situations, it may be that the calcium is maybe decent, not as high as it should be, but the magnesium is very much lower. So in that situation, I would give more magnesium to balance that out. So this is where this test comes in crucial, because we have a black and white number here showing us so that we know exactly what needs to be provided, and we're not guessing and just throwing everything in or the wrong things in. And then that skews because everything is related to everything else. So that's kind
Right.
of
So when people get a report, it's not just about necessarily the numbers for each mineral and metal. It's a lot more intricate than that. It's about their levels, how they relate to each other, what those things can then trickle down and impact. So it sounds like it's not just the testings and the results that's the important part, but it's also the interpretation. And then how do you actually change the care for that animal to make up for any excesses, deficiencies that you're seeing within these reports and analysis that's done.
So it is taking all of those minerals and also looking at the ratios, and then understanding in this report, we also get information when you understand how to interpret it, how the thyroid is functioning, how the adrenal glands are functioning, what the pituitary is doing. So we also get a picture of the endocrine system at the very cellular level. And again, this interpretation of the endocrine is different than if you did a thyroid test on the blood. It's looking at what is available in those cells and what is their need to work. So sometimes if we're looking at these ones that are always ramped up, always ramped up, always ramped up, what we're going to see is that the sodium is going to be very high because the adrenal glands are in overdrive. I mean, they're just chucking out the aldosterone, which is an inflammatory hormone, all the time because of what's happening. And the cortisol levels can be elevated as well in those individuals. And so then the kidneys have to respond to that. And what the kidneys do is hold the sodium. So we see a high sodium on these very anxious, oftentimes, dogs, because that will be an indication of stress or inflammation or some of both. So these really stressed dogs with their adrenals going super fast, now we have, again, a number of looking at this stress level and what we need to do to help bring that down. And sometimes the thyroid will go, all right, this body is in overdrive. I've got to do something. And adrenals are a little bit more of a priority if we look at the autonomic nervous system, that sympathetic, the fight or flight, and the parasympathetic, which is supposed to be the brakes. So sometimes the thyroid comes in and says, okay, dude, I got to do something about this. I'm taking over here. And so the thyroid may purposefully slow down. And we'll see that with a rise in calcium related to the potassium. So the calcium potassium ratio tells us about thyroid function. It could be fast, but it may in this situation be slow. That doesn't mean this animal is hypothyroid, like when you look at a blood test, but it is telling us that the thyroid is purposefully trying to make the body chill. So the last thing you would want to do, you want to support the thyroid to help this stress level come down and help their anxiety and that go away. But you certainly wouldn't want to think, oh, that means low, and then put them on a thyroid replacement, because that then, as the generator, it's going to drive it back up, which the thyroid then is going to allow the adrenals to go faster, which isn't going to help this individual in the long run. So we're really getting a behind the scene picture. The other thing is copper. So the adrenal glands need copper and cholesterol to make cortisol. Both of those have to be present. And this is where people get into trouble when they're type A and live a stressed life and they get a blood test and their cholesterol is high. Well, it's high for a purpose. And they go on the drugs that take the cholesterol away. And now the adrenal glands are going ballistic because the cholesterol is the bullet and the cortisol is the bullet, and it needs cholesterol and copper as part of the ingredients to make the ammo. So we got this factory going here that's being run by what your mind is
Right.
telling it about your life, how you look at or focus on, the UPS guy coming to the door. A lot of dogs, it's no big deal. Other ones, oh man, alive. It might be fun, or it just may be the most terrible, awful thing in the world. You know how that goes. So in some individuals, this copper elevates. And an elevated copper in some scenarios is even worse to that individual than others, because we know copper wire moves electricity. So this elevated copper can make one very agitated, can make their behavior erratic, can take one, you might have one that starts to behave differently. And in this elevated copper, you feel like your outside is spinning in a different rate than your inside, and they're going opposite directions. They can't rest, even if they knew when you said go lay down, just go lay down. They know the words, but they can't do it. And they can't do it when the calcium and magnesium is low. No matter how much they understand, their body physiologically does not have the capacity to allow them to be calm, to rest, to not think of things in a stressed way.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that just drives home the importance of when you think that you're having a mental health related behavioral issue with a pet, that this type of testing can be really impactful for their life, because maybe there is something that physiologically they can't calm down, they can't go lay down, or they're having trouble focusing. What are some other behavioral or mental health related things that we could see from hair tissue mineral analysis?
Well, one scenario that I wanted to bring up is with cats. We think about the hyperthyroid cats that, as talking about behavioral changes. So, they're starting to pace at night, it keeps them awake because the thyroid's going so fast. Their generator is like way overboard. They're like always around wanting to eat. They're hungry all the time, and they're more anxious, nervous, jittery. Maybe they start licking or chewing at themselves, especially if the copper's high, because they get that tingling at the nerve endings, and then they want to like chew at themselves because it's irritating. So cats
Interesting.
that are hyperthyroid need 250 times more calcium than a euthyroid cat.
Wow.
So if we
Okay.
look at these cats over time, they get to hyperthyroidism because they have been deficient in calcium for probably their whole lifetime. And now it's just gotten so bad that the thyroid can't be slow, because it's calcium that helps the thyroid to be able to downregulate. And without it, it can't. So we've got these cats in this chronic hypocalcemic state. And also when they're older, then the parathyroid gland comes into play. Now because it hasn't had the calcium, it's skewed. And the parathyroid works with the thyroid and the kidney. So we've got those three to look at in these older cats with the behavioral changes. And we know older cats and the kidneys it goes way back. And one of the things I also wanted to mention, this is a real problem with supplement. I got two things on the supplement, like what do we give and what do we do? One is
Hmm.
that we know dogs and cats, animals for the most part, other than a couple of them, make their own. They can fabricate the vitamin C from what they eat. We do not need to be adding vitamin C to all of these different products for the dogs and cats like you do for humans.
Hmm.
But somehow the industry and the people, because you do it for humans, they got this thought that it has to be in everything. The only time we add vitamin C to a program is when the calcium is super, super high. because it will pull the calcium out of the tissue. So now think about these scenarios of these animals that may be stressed and have the behavioral considerations, but they may also have an immune system problem, which will happen after chronic sympathetic dominant, the adrenals, the endocrine collapses. Now you've got a parasympathetic state, and you're going to have more of the immune system deficiencies. So what do they think? They think, oh, immune, we add vitamin C. That's going to be the solution. But they got to this problem because they already didn't have enough calcium. Now you're just pulling more calcium out of that refrigerator, out of the interstitial fluid, and they have less. So this point needs to be understood. And because a lot of times people will have several products they're given, and all of them will have some vitamin C in it. It's a real concern. And then the other thing too, I mean, I've been studying nutrition on a cellular level for like 30 years, and I've been doing this hair analysis for 20, and have published research and written the books on educating doctors on how to do this. And while I am an advocate of whole food nutrition, when we have these tests, there are times when something is maybe so high or another one so low that the only way we're going to get that corrected in any short period of time, while you may be doing some whole food supplementation, is actually to add in some synthetic vitamins or minerals. Because when you continue to give it as a group, there's not near enough. And everything else in that, if you gave enough to correct the issue, everything else would be too much. So there are times when you have this test that synthetic vitamins can be used like a pharmaceutical, but it's not going to have the bad side effects because it is being used in the correct proportion and balance. And you're following up with another test in 3 to 6 months, depending on how bad they were. And so you're going to have the follow-up to see how are we doing. So an example is obviously the low calcium and magnesium. You want to give calcium and magnesium, but there are different types of calcium and magnesium based on pHs and how it dissolves in the body and where they are on sympathetic or parasympathetic. So you want to make sure you have the right kind. When the sodium is super high, because these adrenal glands have been in, like Go Speed Racer for too long, and every day they're revamped up again. The number one for bringing that sodium down is zinc. Most bodies are zinc deficient because zinc, just as an enzyme, is needed in over 200 reactions in a body, just as an enzyme. So that means it starts something and then the process continues to go. But zinc is needed for the liver and for the immune system, for the skin, for everything in the body. All the tissue needs zinc. And like I said, majority of everybody is zinc deficient. And it is the zinc that helps with those adrenal glands and helps with the kidney and helps to bring that sodium level down. The second one that helps to bring that sodium down is taurine, depending on how high it is. And this taurine is the key point that came up in that food thing back in 2019. And if people had these hair tissue mineral analysis tests, they would know that this chronic inflammation requires more taurine. So these individuals could appear to be taurine deficient because of chronic inflammation, and they actually need more of it. Especially then what happens with that high inflammation, the high sodium, it drives magnesium out of the cells. It pushes the magnesium out. Real bummer when you got one that's got behavior and stress. And now what happens is the calcium wants to be even with the magnesium, so it becomes depleted as well. So all of these work together, which is a really fun game to learn to do all of this if you're so inclined. And I happen to like games and puzzles, and it's like so intriguing, and it's just so rewarding when you do this and then you do your follow-up tests. And I mean, like, I'll have clients in 2 or 3 weeks going, oh my gosh, it's just like you said, they're already doing this and that, and we've been through years of all of this other money and all of these other things that didn't help, and we're already getting better. And then you get your follow-up and you go, oh my gosh, especially with the herbivores, the horses and rabbits, because as an herbivore, they're really programmed to get all the good out of nutrients, out of plants. They respond super, super fast. So
And you do have that service available. If anybody's interested in getting this analysis done, they can go to your lifeextendmethod.com website and work with you directly.
yep.
It sounds like we are just really scraping the surface of what this testing is capable of doing and the impact it can have in properly supplementing once you get those results. So I wanted to just leave people today with some resources, because obviously they're going to need to learn a lot more about the testing and the analysis for their specific pet, and how to help them. So what are some great resources
Well, we do
that
have
you
a
could share
simple
with
way
people?
for people too with dogs that want to have the test run. There's checkpup.com, which is basically all that I do put into a computerized system. So they can easily order up checkpup.com, and we've got a coupon code that's going to be going on here with this program. They can order that test kit for dogs and then get it shipped to them, and they'll do just like what we described with the clean, the clip, and they submit it, and then they will get an analysis that is very, very detailed, that gives them the bottom line. Here's what you need to do. Here's the recommendations for what to supplement, that kind of thing. So it makes it very simple. For those who want a one-on-one, like me, hold your hand and walk you through it, they can contact me at the lifeextendmethod.com website. They can order up the program that they want there, and then we go through the testing, and then I work through the food changes and all that. So, and then certainly with cats or horses or any other species, you would want to then give me a contact, because CheckPup is just currently right now for dogs. So there's that.
Awesome.
I also have my books. So for those doctors out there who really want to learn how to do this, I've got the nutritional guidebook on doing the survey, which breaks down the body systems and organs, and you can see which ones are struggling the most and where you want to target certain types of general whole food support, like we do with the standard processed products. And then I also have the guidebook on how to interpret the hair tissue mineral analysis. So veterinarians or animal nutritionists or anybody with a science mind who really wants to understand this more deeply, then you can purchase those, and it walks you through, and then you do a few tests, and then you can contact me and I can help you as you get started. So I have lots of doctors that I work with, and eventually they wean me off because they learn how to do it. Yeah. And then they don't need me so much anymore
Yeah.
unless it's a tough case.
That's really awesome. And I think that is an important point, that if you are going to your regular veterinarian, they may not necessarily know how to do the
Right.
interpretation of the hair tissue mineral analysis results. So that's why it is really important to find somebody like Dr. Ava Frick that specializes in it. Or you could recommend that your veterinarian reaches out to her, gets her
Yeah.
books. That's a wonderful opportunity, because, yeah, this is a really insightful way to learn more about what your pet has gone through in the past 90 days and what their future, how you can help their future better. So
Yeah.
I think it is a much needed skill in just the general veterinary space. But for now, we're very grateful for you and the services that you provide. And I was reading on the CheckPup website earlier that they have an algorithm that they now use for analyzing some of those relationships and values that you were talking about. And when I read that and heard you talking, I was like, so I hope that algorithm is a good reflection of Dr. Ava's brain, because the way that you can connect all of the pieces together, like you said, it's like solving a really intricate puzzle. Good for you. I'm so happy that we have people like you that specialize in this stuff, because it's really awesome and very powerful for pets.
I worked with CheckPup I still do, but we started from zero, and a year and a half of putting all of my information, my brain, into the computer programs. And then we tested. I said, okay, we've got to test this we ran up to 100 different animal cases to make sure that the results that it was printing out was what it would be if I saw the test and did it myself and was telling them. So it is spot on.
Really wonderful. And so we'll put that coupon code for CheckPup. It's going to be Dr. Judy 50, but we'll put the link so you can get $50 off your purchase of the CheckPup kit. If you have animals that are not dogs, cats, horses, rabbits that you are interested in getting analyzed, you can reach out to Dr. Ava Frick at the lifeextendmethod.com website. So thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Ava, for
you,
joining us
Gwen.
today.
It was a pleasure.